Well, this current political season certainly has kept a lot for us to think about, especially when two of the main candidates for president in the next election for president are pushing 80 years of age, or will be 80 years when they serve. Well, if I make it to 80 years, being president of the United States is the last thing I think I'd be wanting to do to round out those last few years, however many I may be granted, of life. But I'm going to leave it up to you, fire starters. How old is too old to work?
Welcome to the Licensed to Live show, where professionals, doctors, champions, VIPs, attorneys, and those in public office discover strategies that help you restart and gain what is lost when you find yourself accused. If another has doubted your integrity, questioned your credentials, or caused your actions to come under scrutiny, you are in the right place. On the other hand, if you have never felt the knot in the pit of your stomach when legal papers are served, the heartbreak of disappointing your family when the lock clicks shut on handcuffs, or had to appear before a board of review, then be aware, the longer you serve, the more likely you are to find yourself under the microscope of those who judge. Prepare yourself for this uncomfortable possibility. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jarret Patton.
Welcome to this episode of License to Live. My name is Dr. Jarret Patton, and I'm your host for our journey together today and every day you choose to listen to this show. If you or anyone you know has been dissed in their career, please invite them to join us along this journey. Simply go to your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe. And while you're there, please rate this episode and give me honest feedback so I continue to bring you the most up-to-date information about career changes and life challenges. Yeah, today is about how old is too old. I mean, what do you want to be doing, in the waning years of your life? And being president of the United States is something I don't think I want to do. Now, if I were to run for a political office or something like that, I probably would do it maybe around now. But I don't think I would do it when I'm 80. But hey, to each their own. This episode is really driving to the point, how old is too old to work? We'll get started with the meat of this conversation right after we finish thanking our sponsors.
Something smells good. PH3 coffee. PH3 coffee. Premium organic. Nothing better than waking up. PH3 in your cup. Premium organic. PH3 coffee. Nothing better than your day. PH3 coffee. Premium organic. PH3 coffee.
Hey, this is Dr. Jarret Patton. Do you need more positivity in your life? No matter what part of your life you want to transform, positive affirmations can help you achieve your goals. But sometimes making permanent changes can be difficult. Designed with you in mind, License to Live. Daily affirmations to rebuild your life will inspire and equip you to become the best version of yourself. License to Live. Daily affirmations to rebuild your life will set you on the path to changing your mindset, beliefs, speech, and ultimately your actions. You can change your life now by getting your copy at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your finer book retails, or licensedtolive.com. That's licensedtolive.com.
Hey guys, this is Janae Noonan, and I'm here with Dr. Jarret on License to Live. Hit the subscribe, follow the journey. Let's go.
License to Live, the conference is coming soon. Get your tickets now. licensedtolive.com. Yeah, I recently just had another birthday, and those of you that pay attention on social media, thank you for all the hundreds of shout outs and Facebook messages and Twitter responses and Instagram posts that people put up there. I mean, I do like to celebrate my birthday, but sometimes it's just another day. But one thing that I do around the time of my birthday is just to think about what's left? I mean, I've been blessed to live on this earth for all of these times, and I'm blessed to have so many different experiences that I'm grateful, both good and bad in my life, because it's made me into the person who I am today. But I look at former President Trump, I look at President Biden, and part of me thinks there's something wrong for them wanting to lead the nation well into their 80s. Now, okay, the founding fathers, they said you have to be at least 35 to be president, but they didn't put an end to the age limit on there. I mean, and that's the case for many jobs. I think air traffic controllers or pilots, they have some special restrictions where they must retire at some relatively young ages by today's standards, when a lot of people want to work till 67, 70, 71. But I think in the airline industry, there are some upper age limits, but for the rest of us, there's not. I mean, let's look at, particularly in politics, people may get in these positions and they may not give them up until they die. I mean, look at our Supreme Court and the justices there. A lot of times they sit on that court until they literally die, and then they're replaced, and somebody else can sit in there for 30, 40 years until they die. Now, personally, if I were a Supreme Court justice, I don't want to die on that bench. I'd rather move myself along, rule on a few cases, and say, yep, my job is done. I'm going to move on and maybe kick back or do something a little less. But that, I guess, gets to the point of it depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you're digging ditches, you may not dig ditches until the age of 95. But hey, if you're on the Supreme Court, well, you may just be able to keep working until you're 95. Who knows? When we look at physicians and hospital execs and people in healthcare, they tend to work into a long period of life. But I remember sitting around having these discussions when I was president of the medical staff, when people wanted to renew their privileges and they were in their 70s, they wanted to renew their hospital privileges. And then you start thinking about the things that come along with advanced age. Well, what is their thought process like, where they're thinking, their physical ability. I know you people in internal medicine, you know about this when you're thinking about driver's licenses and getting them renewed and helping the elderly and that age-old conversation about how old is too old to drive. Again, it almost depends. It really depends on the effort you put in there. And I don't have an answer for you. I just know what I want to do. And what I'm encouraging you fire starters to do is to say, all right, well, if I'm going to continue to work and work and work and work, you may be able to do what you're going to do. But at some point, you may want to slow down or look to change something so you have something else to do later. I know there's some people that have told me and said, you know what? I think I am done governing and running hospitals. I think I just want to start a podcast and talk about some things that I like to talk about. And I say that's a great idea because it'll take a transition. You can kind of formally retire from stuff you do formally and maybe get a W-2 paycheck you're bringing home. And then you can say, I'm just going to ease out. Here's my retirement party. I'm out and go do something else. A lot of times you've seen people, and I've seen so many people I've worked with over the years that, they've worked and worked and worked, and they set that age in their mind of when they're going to retire. They hit that age and they retire, and their retirement is cut short, sadly, by their death. And they may only get to experience 2 days or 3 days or maybe a couple of months of retirement. And that really is sad, which is why I haven't put an age on it myself. I just want to be cognizant of all the things that go along with that decision. So as far as what I'm doing now, speaking on stages, telling stories, talking to the media, coaching individuals and organizations around career change and communication, I could probably do this for some time. And as long as I'm still enjoying it to the level I am right now, which is sky high, I could stretch that out as long as I want to. And I'm making a plan to do so. Now, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to decide, well, where do you stand and where does it matter? And, well, how will I know? And, we'll get to some of those answers right after we finish thanking our sponsors.
The time is now to refresh your career. We help doctors, lawyers, executives, and VIPs refresh and restart. Dr. Jarret's coaching helps you build confidence, gain more credibility, develop more leadership skills, and gain clarity in your career path. Want to climb the executive ladder or branch out on your own? We'll put your career in overdrive. Visit drjarret.com and sign up for your free strategy session.
So I think people work longer for a variety of different reasons. I mean, the obvious one is financially. We know that the Social Security system won't fully serve us in retirement. We won't fully get all of the great information and financial benefits that we would get in Social Security to keep up with a salary if you're still happen to be working. Some of it is to stay active. And honestly, people tend to live longer, healthier lives when they stay active. So my observation is when you do retire, figure out things that you like to do that will keep you active, because the more sedentary you become, it seems like the more your health deteriorates. And that's kind of sad. So it ends up being some of the quality of life that's there. And some, never retire. As we said before, they retire when they actually die, which is a different way to look at it. And I'm pretty sure that's not the right route for me, but to each their own. So back to the question of how old is too old? Well, there's still not an exact number, particularly in healthcare. There's some things and some studies and things people are looking at, but the truth be told, it's governed by each individual institution. But the University of California, San Diego, has started trying to tackle this method. They have a program they call P.A.C.E, Physician Assessment and Clinical Education. It's a program designed to help people determine in healthcare, and this is even more physician-centric, they determine how much is too much. And they do it in a couple of different ways. They do just some regular testing, like we've always had tests in our entire careers that we periodically have to take. And they do that over the first day or two. And then they spend several days kind of working in a clinic and doing some of the daily things they may do as a physician, where they're being evaluated by members of their residency program. So it's an academic evaluation of skill sets. So you're dealing with some of the cognitive issues, and you're dealing with, well, what actually can you do, and should you change? Now, unfortunately, this isn't widely available, and most of the usage of this P.A.C.E program comes through referrals from the medical board when something has gone wrong. There are very few people who voluntarily do it. So at the end of the day, it's kind of up to us to regulate ourselves on how old is too old. So I mean, I do know a number of docs and pediatricians, particularly, who've worked well into their 70s, maybe even pushing 80, still being active. But they've changed their role. They may not be in direct patient care anymore. They may be doing more in advocacy, more working with organizations and making change in healthcare, or to a special interest that they want to do. So it's about making that change to ease into that time. But unfortunately, when we're looking at ourselves, we may not be able to determine that. And it may have to come from a medical staff leadership, or it may have to come from the medical board and taking some sort of action. But unfortunately, for the majority of cases, that's not the case. And we kind of had to pull the hook on ourselves. So I'm leaving the question up to you. I don't have an answer, but I would love to hear what your answer is. So when the blog of this episode releases, or even before that, I want you guys to hit me up on Twitter at Dr. Jarret, spell out the word doctor, J-A, 2 R's, E, 1 T, and let me know, how old do you think is too old to keep working? Remember, fire starters, if you or anyone you know has been disengaged, dissatisfied, disgruntled, disenfranchised with your job, please invite them to join us along this journey. Simply go to your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe to License to Live. While you're there, let me know what you want to hear about. What do you want me to cover in this podcast so I continue to bring you the most up-to-date information about career challenges and life changes? And hey, for those of you that are getting up there in age, thinking about what you're going to do in that next phase, or you're just going to work to the very end, I'll see you next time.
No matter how disheartening the moment of accusation sounds, how deep the pain of immobilization stabs, or how bleak your future looks, no one can take away your license to live. Keep Dr. Jarret's expertise handy and unlock your future. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or another podcast player and subscribe right now to Licensed to Live. See you next time.